Who Dat to the Who Dat Nation. Welcome to the Who Dat Say Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your fellow Who Dat and host, Kevin Reed, and today is a celebration. This is the Who Dat Say Podcast. We talk New Orleans Saints, and of course, normally we'll jump into training camp reports and who's shining and what's to expect with the first preseason game coming up soon against the Jacksonville Jaguars, getting hyped up for football season as we do in the Who Dat Nation. And that's not the show today. Today's celebration that, I guess it's because for the past, 5 years, we have been craving some good news here in the Who Dat Nation. It's been a struggle for the Saints fans around the world, and it's not been good. It's not been happy times. But finally, we have something to celebrate. Finally, we have something to cheer for. Finally, we can get in on the joy of watching the greatest quarterback in Saints history and one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever touch an NFL field be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that is none other than Drew Christopher Brees. Number 9 himself will be a first ballot Hall of Famer as he is inducted into the Hall of Fame on Saturday, August the 8th, and I couldn't think of a more deserving player to walk in on his first go around. It's fitting. It's a no-brainer. This was a layup in basketball terms. This was the easiest vote you probably could vote. Drew Brees is probably the prototypical quarterback you want on your team. First in, last out guy at practice. Coach on the field. A guy who can elevate the players that are on the field with him, a guy who calls out protections, even when the offensive line don't see the blitz coming, he sees it coming and can call it out. It can be mobile, but not mobile in the Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson sense. I'm talking mobile around that pocket. He would work a pocket like none other. He's literally in a phone booth, and he will just do that little shoulder dip to throw off a defensive tackle or a defensive end who is rushing him. It is the craziest thing. And this dude did it at 6 feet tall. At least that's what he's listed as. Being somebody who's seen him in person, he's not 6 feet tall. he's a little shorter than that. And I'm not shaming the man. I'm 5'6", so I know short when I see short. But he did this amongst giants. I mean, just to put it in perspective, our current quarterback on the team, Tyler Shuck, is 6'5". So he is dwarfed when it comes to it just going in his era, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Aaron Rodgers, quarterbacks of that ilk. He was the short one. He was the little bitty guy, and he made it fashionable to whereas you can put a Kyler Murray on a team, you can have a Russell Wilson on a team, you can have a Patrick Mahomes, even though Patrick Mahomes I think is 6'1", 6'2", maybe, I forgot, but he's shorter than your normal quarterback, and it's the norm now, rather it being the exception when Drew Brees entered the league. Now, it wasn't all peaches and creams when Drew Brees got into the league. He was drafted by the then San Diego Chargers, and he was the guy there. And it didn't quite work out there in San Diego, and it was all for the New Orleans Saints' benefit when they decided to move on from Drew Brees and go with Phillip Rivers, who they drafted. And it became the biggest blessing in New Orleans Saints history. by getting this quarterback, this guy, to join this team when they were at their literal lowest, to move to this city when they were at their literal lowest, coming off of Katrina. The dome was shattered, the city was shattered, and it still is in some areas. If you're not from down here, never been down here, it's we're still trying to bounce back 20 years later, but that's a whole nother story. But anywho's, to join this team and accomplish what he accomplished as a New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees in San Diego and Drew Brees in New Orleans, night and day. Two completely different quarterbacks. It's no way you can watch highlights of him in San Diego, even though he was an all-pro in San Diego. Now, granted, he had LaDainian Tomlinson there with him. He also had Antonio Gates. Was it Antonio Gates? Yeah, Antonio Gates there. He had weapons around him, but my God, when he got here, oh my God. But we're gonna go over that. We're gonna go over his career and justify, even if I don't know how, but I don't know how anybody would question him getting into the Hall of Fame. But for all of those doubters or haters or just plain idiotic people who don't understand why Drew Brees is entering the Hall of Fame this Saturday, I'm gonna break down. Yeah, you see highlights, but sometimes you need to hear numbers. Sometimes you have to hear accolades and put them in their proper perspective. And so it all starts off, Drew Brees, he was born in Dallas, Texas in 1979. Yes, we're the same age. It's crazy. He's going in the Hall of Fame, and I'm me. But anyways, he was more of a baseball guy growing up. He didn't play football until he got to high school. He loved baseball, and his younger brother too. His younger brother Reed, no relation. He actually made it to the MLB. I think he played for Colorado. No, I forgot what team he played for, but he went to the World Series, or the College World Series, I should say. But yeah, he did go on to the baseball dreams. But Brees, once he got into high school and started playing football, he noticed he had a knack for it, So, hey, let me ride this train. Let's see where this takes me. And now the family is an athletic family. His parents have an athletic background. His father was a basketball player at Texas A&M. His mother I think she was an all-state athlete in 3 different sports in high school. And so, yeah, they are a very athletic family. It's in their blood. I think they had uncles and aunties that also were athletic. I think Drew Brees' uncle, he was the quarterback of the Texas Longhorns back in the day in the early 70s. His grandfather was a high school football coach in Texas. Yeah, it just runs in their blood. And anyways, Drew was still bouncing back and forth with baseball and football. He still was holding on to the baseball thing, but a strange thing happened his junior year in high school. He blew out his knee, and so he tore his ACL, and college recruits kind of looked past him after that. And you have him going into his senior year. He bounced back. When you're young, you can shake that off. You can rub dirt on an ACL injury. Now you get older, you get a sprained ankle and you need a full body cast. But his senior year in high school, Drew Brees was selected as Texas high school 5A most valuable offensive player in 1996. And he led the Austin Westlake High School football team to a 16-0 record, including the state championship. As the football player, his whole 4 years at Austin High School, Drew Brees completed 314 passes on 490 attempts. That is 64.1% completion average. There are NFL quarterbacks right now starting that don't have that average. He did it in high school. 5,461 yards and 50 touchdowns. And that includes his senior year, where he threw 211 completions on 333 attempts. That is 63.4%. That's just in that year. 3,528 yards and 31 touchdowns. Brees, he only started 2 seasons there, and he went 28-0-1. Never lost. And to win that state championship, he beat I forgot the name of the school, but they beat him 55-15. At the time, the big star on that team was Dominic Rhodes, and he was a running back. He played in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. What makes it so crazy, in the Super Bowl, the one Super Bowl that Drew Brees played in, Dominic Rhodes was on the Colts team, if I'm not mistaken. I could be, but I don't think I am. So they played in the high school championship and an NFL championship. That is crazy. Anyway, he was given an honorable mention at the state high school all-star football team and the USA Today All-USA high school football team, alongside his soon-to-be teammate in San Diego, LaDainian Tomlinson. Drew Brees had hoped that he would follow in his father's footsteps and play in Texas, for the Longhorns, or go to Texas A&M. But that wasn't in the cards. He wasn't heavily recruited by either one of those institutions. So he only received 2 college offers when he finished up with high school. One being Kentucky, the other being Purdue, the Boilermakers, which he chose. In his college career at Purdue, Drew Brees, he set 2 NCAA records, 13 Big Ten Conference records, and 19 Purdue University records. He finished 4th in the Heisman in 1999 and 3rd in the Heisman voting in the year 2000. He left Purdue with Big Ten Conference records in passing yardage. That was 11,792 yards passing. He also led Purdue with touchdown passes with 90 and total offensive yards with 12,693. Completions as well. He completed 1,026 completions off of 1,678, which was also a record. He tied an NCAA record with a 99-yard pass to receiver Vinny Sutherland against Northwestern on September 25th, 1999. And I remember that, not so much like I studied that play, but I remember during the draft, the year he came out, they played that play over and over and over when he was eventually drafted. And he also held the NCAA record for pass attempts in a single game with 83 pass attempts for 15 years. That is crazy. I don't know who broke that. Actually, I think no, I don't know who broke it, but eventually it did come tumbling down. I don't know how. Who would jack up the ball over 80 times in one game? I don't know. I just don't understand that. But in 2009, Drew Brees was inducted into the Purdue's Intercollegiate Academics Hall of Fame. The Big Ten Conference Greasy and Brees Quarterback of the Year award initiated in 2011. And of course, it was named after him and Bob Greasy in their honor, I should say. He was named the Big Ten best quarterback of the 1990s, the entire decade, people. and he ranked number 48 in the 2010 documentary Big Ten Icons, featuring the conference top 50 students and athletes. So we fast forward to 2001 for the NFL draft. Drew Brees finished up his college career. As you see, his collegiate career was off the charts. You would think with those numbers and those accolades, he would be a, I don't know, mid first round pick, maybe second round pick. No. No, he slipped due to concerns about his height, because he was 6 feet tall. At least that's what he's listed as. And his lack of arm strength, which, look, I'll never say that Drew Brees had a cannon for an arm. That wasn't his thing. Oh, but when he could get it, when he wanted to get it down the field, he got it down the field. But when he was coming out of high school, that was not high school, coming out of college, that was the big bugaboo on Drew Brees. His height, his arm strength, and since that he went to Purdue and they ran this kind of spread offense, it wasn't a pro style. It was pro style, but it was a hybrid of many things at Purdue, and it was fears that wouldn't translate over to the NFL. So Drew Brees, he was the second quarterback selected in the 2001 NFL draft, right behind any takers? Michael Vick. Michael Vick was the number one pick by the Atlanta Falcons that year. Drew Brees was the second pick, but he was the first pick in the second round to the San Diego Chargers, who selected LaDainian Tomlinson with their first round pick. So they got their quarterback and their running back all in that draft there. And so we start his I'm about to say freshman, but his rookie year in San Diego, and there was zero fireworks. Why? Because he was the backup. He was the backup quarterback behind Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie, he started all 16 games that year. Doug Flutie would not allow anybody to take his spot. And that's all quarterback. And Drew Brees did it. Drew Brees did the same thing. So it's no knock on Doug Flutie. But Brees did play in his first professional game on November the 4th, 2001 against the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 8. He came into the game to relieve Flutie, who had suffered a concussion in that game. He finished with 221 passing yards in his first career touchdown pass, a 20-yard pass for a touchdown. The game against the Chiefs was Brees' long appearance that season. That was the only game that he entered in, because Doug Flutie was not going to let him take his spot. So we fast forward to his second year in 2002. Drew Brees was named the starter over Doug Flutie, and he started all 16 games for the Chargers. The season started off well with the Chargers. I remember this season. They were 6-1. Boy, they were on fire. But like all flames, they burn out. They fell. I think they started off 6-1 and they end up losing 7 after that, or I think it was 7 games after that. And because they finished 8-8 in that season. But he finished the 2002 season with 3,284 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. In week 4 of 2003, Drew Brees recorded a 21-yard touchdown reception on a pass thrown by LaDainian Tomlinson in a 34-31 overtime loss to the at the time Oakland Raiders. After a disappointing 1-7 start to that season, Drew Brees was replaced by Doug Flutie, though he did eventually regain the job in week 15. In 11 games, Drew Brees finished with 2,108 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, and 15 15 interceptions. Like I said, San Diego was not, that wasn't where he was meant to be. you know, and people in San Diego felt the same way. That's why in that year's following draft, the San Diego Chargers selected Phillip Rivers. And the writing was on the wall for Mr. Brees in San Diego. The heir apparent was there. The replacement was there, and Drew Brees was set to become a free agent after the 2004 season. And of course, it was no secret that San Diego was not expected to retain his services, and they had already committed a large amount of money to Phillip Rivers, so they weren't going to pay two quarterbacks, big money to stay on the team. And so the team eventually designated Brees as a franchise player and gave him a 1-year contract that actually quadrupled his pay. He got paid $8 million in 2005. And so under the terms of the franchise player contract, Drew Brees was eligible to be traded or to sign with another team. But the Chargers would receive 2 future first-round draft picks in return. So he was not traded, of course, because who was going to give up that much capital for a quarterback at that time was not worthy of that type of investment. So, no, they kind of played him. Well, ain't no kind of. They played him in that regards, whereas he couldn't leave the team under his own terms or whatever the case may be. And so he continued being the starting quarterback for the remainder of that season. They started off 1-2, and Drew Brees helped lead I think it was 41-17 victory over the New England Patriots that season. In that game, he went 19 for 24, 248 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and he earned AFC Offensive Player of the Week in his efforts. And so he posted a career high in passing yardage that season with 3,576 yards. Drew Brees also posted a 89.2 quarterback rating, not passer rate, but quarterback rating, and it was the 10th best in the NFL. However, this is where the tides turned. And I watched this game, and I don't know why I was watching this game, because I didn't care about either one of these teams, the Chargers or the Broncos. I didn't care, but I think it was the only one that was on that Sunday afternoon. But it was the last game of that season, and Drew Brees, I think in the final quarter of the game, oddly enough, he tore his labrum trying to pick up a fumble, and he was hit by, ironically, the current GM of the San Francisco 49ers, but he was the safety at the time for the Broncos. John Lynch hit him, and the ball came loose. He went to dive on the ball, and he landed wrong, and then somebody landed on top of him with his arm stretched. I remember it vividly, and I'm like, ooh, he's done. Immediately, I said, immediately, and oh my God, it was brutal. It was brutal, and of course, he had to get surgery to repair that torn labrum, and just made the decision, oh so simple, for the San Diego Chargers. Because think about it, at that point, Drew Brees was having his best career year as a Charger. He was lighting it up, putting all the pressure on the Chargers, and boom, that happened. Last game of the season, and it was over. And so after the season, the Chargers did offer Brees a contract. Oddly enough, they offered him a 5-year, $50 million contract that paid $2 million in base salary on the first year, and then the rest would be based on performance incentives. And Drew Brees graciously declined. So we get to free agency, and now at this point, we transfer over to the Who Dat Nation. Now we know where we were at this point. We're 1 year removed from Hurricane Katrina. We're 1 year removed from Jim Haslam, and God bless him, for him to get that team together and play, that season, practicing on in parking lots and stuff like that, and still going play. It was the man didn't have a chance. And did he deserve to get fired? Yeah, not for that season, but for previous season. They should have been let him go, to be honest with you. But he was living off of that one playoff win, and that bought him about 3 years. And so we made two big moves this offseason. One, hiring Sean Payton as the head coach of the Saints. And that was a head scratcher too at the moment. I know you look at it now like, yes, of course you hire Sean Payton. Sean Payton was not Sean Payton back then. He was the offensive coordinator for Dallas. He was on the Giants coaching staff. He trained under Bill Parcells. It's all that was there. And I just didn't think, because he was such a young guy now. You look at him now, he's a little older, a little more seasoned, and he looks like a coach. But when he came here, when they first signed him, he looked like the ball boy. He was a little boy when they hired him. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about this hire. But, we around that time, we were trying to get our lives together. We really weren't worried about who the coach of the New Orleans Saints were. And so they made that move, and then they made the biggest move that you could actually make, and it's proven to be the greatest move in Saints history. But it wasn't as easy as placing a phone call to Drew Brees and telling him to come here. Drew Brees was on his way to Miami. He was taking his talents to South Beach. At the time, Nick Saban was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, and they had offered him a contract. He was all on board. Actually, he was good and signed, to be in Miami. But there was one faux pas. He had to run a physical. And we all know that he is fresh off of surgery on a torn labrum and rotator cuff, might I add. And so, of course, he failed it. He failed it. But in typical New Orleans Saints fashion, and they still do it to this day, we didn't care. The Saints offered Drew Brees a contract with $10 million guaranteed the first year and $12 million optioned on the second year. Drew Brees signed it, broke shoulder and all. Of course. Yeah, of course he was skeptical. Yeah, I mean, he's like, where are we going to play? We have no stadium. The roof is off the dome. I don't even know where to live right now in New Orleans. It's crazy. But the total contract was 6 years, $60 million. And Drew Brees signed it on March the 14th, 2006. And my God, I just want to give a shout out to the training staff in Miami. Thank you for dropping the ball. Thank you for not looking the other way. Thank you for allowing this man to walk clean out the door and fall right in our laps. You know who they end up signing? Since they didn't get Drew Brees, they went and signed Dante Culpepper, who was the former quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. And I couldn't stand Dante Culpepper because when we played the Vikings, he used to tear our behinds up, and I hated him for it. Yeah, they signed him. He went to Miami and just completely disappeared. I don't know what happened to him in Miami, but I could tell you what happened to Drew Brees. Drew Brees had his first year as a New Orleans Saints, probably the most unexpected first year from a quarterback, especially coming off of a torn labrum and rotator cuff on his throwing arm, mind you. The team under first-time head coach Sean Payton, they rebound from this disastrous 2005 season when the team was unable to play in New Orleans due to the damage by the hurricane and finished that season 3-13. They went on to improve to a 10-6 record that first year and won the NFC South division title. The Saints earned the NFC's second seed, and at the time that was a first round bye. Now you only get one team from each conference with a bye, but we got the first round bye, second seed. That meant our first game would take place in the division round of that season, of that playoff run, I should say. And on November the 5th, in a 31-14 victory over the Tampa Bay Bucks, he had 314 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He earned the NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors. On November the 19th, in a 31-16 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, he threw for a career high 510 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. Drew Brees' 510 passing yards marked a single game franchise record and was the 6th most in a single game in NFL history at the time. In week 14, in a 42-13 victory over the Dallas Cowboys, he had 384 yards passing and 5 touchdowns, and he earned his second NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors that year. Drew Brees threw a league-leading and franchise record 4,418 passing yards, finishing 3rd in the league with 26 touchdown passes and 11 interceptions. His passer rating was 96.2 that season. Brees was named starting quarterback for the NFC in the Pro Bowl that season and was named to a first-team All-Pro. On January the 5th, 2007, Brees was named first runner-up behind former teammate LaDainian Tomlinson in the league MVP voting. Brees and Tomlinson were co-recipients of the Walter Payton Man of the Year award that season. On January the 13th, in his first playoff game for New Orleans, Drew Brees went 20 for 32 on pass attempts and 1 touchdown, no interceptions against the Philadelphia Eagles in that division round of the playoffs, and gave the New Orleans Saints only their second playoff victory in franchise history and catapulted them for the first time in their franchise to the NFC Championship game against the Chicago Bears. Now, this is this is where the tide turned for that season. I remember going by my auntie house with my cousins, and we all watched this game, and we were hyped up for this game, boy. Yeah, I thought we had it in the bag. I ain't gonna lie to you. I thought the Saints had it in the bag in that game. Though he completed 27 for 49 passing attempts for 354 yards and 2 touchdowns, he did commit 3 costly turnovers in that game. You got to remember the Chicago Bears defense that year was, oh my God, it was brutal. It was a brutal defense, and the Saints, they were also penalized a lot in that game. I think Drew Brees had maybe a couple intentional grounding calls in that game, one in the end zone, which resulted in a safety. And I think I remember that call being kind of controversial. I could be wrong, but it could be the bias in me, to be honest with you. But I remember being upset by that call. But it wouldn't have mattered because, unfortunately, the Saints lost that NFC Championship game to the Chicago Bears 39-14. Drew Brees, he dislocated his elbow in that game, too. Well, actually, in the Pro Bowl. I'm sorry, in the Pro Bowl. when he does, I'm like, man, this dude cannot win when it comes to final games of the season. It's, I don't even know why he played in that game. Forget the Pro Bowl. But anyways, we move on. 2007 was pretty much a wash. The Saints finished 7-9 that season. 2008 was the same results, 7-9. But oh my God, people. Oh my God, 2009. This was such a special year. Such a special season. And not just for the Super Bowl. Yes, the Super Bowl absolutely was the highlight, one of the greatest highlights of my life. To be honest with you, it wasn't even a Super Bowl for me. It was the NFC Championship game. That's where my emotions came out. I didn't get super emotional for the Super Bowl, but I got it for the NFC Championship game when Garrett Hartley made that kick in overtime. I cried like a baby having the bottle yanked out of his mouth. I never cried that hard. I don't think I cried that hard when my dad passed away. But I cried. Oh my God, I cried because I waited so long. Literally my entire life for this moment. And I had convinced myself that it was never going to happen. And it finally happened. But honestly, I felt something that year, early on in the preseason. It was a preseason game against I want to say the Bears. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but in 2009, it was a preseason game. It was the first drive, and of course, the starters was in that first drive, and it was just something clicked. Something clicked with this team, and they did no wrong. Now, granted, it was a preseason game. You're not supposed to read into them, and I don't. I wasn't trying to read into that game. But it really wasn't so much of the play. It was Drew Brees. Drew Brees walking off the field in one of those games. I'm telling you, it was Chicago. But it's like he turned back. That was it. That was it for his quota for the game. And he turned around and he just waved at him and walked to the sideline. Like, okay, I'm done. I did what I came to do. I'm done. And it was that swag, that energy that he was putting out. And internally, I told myself, we gonna do something this season. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I was gonna bear witness to Drew Brees raising his son up in the air with confetti raining down. But I knew something special was on the horizon. And my God, did you get a special run from this team? This was one of the most dominating performances from a team. And this wasn't even the Saints' best team. That's the crazy part. Their best team was in 2012. Whenever the no call happened that year, I'm trying to erase it from memory because I get PTSD from. But it's that year, that team, that season was the best team the Saints had. On paper, roster wise, they were offense, defense, everything. They were a beast on the field. That was their best team, and end up getting robbed. But we didn't get to that yet. In 2009, in the first game of the season, they played. Ironically enough, is this an omen? I doubt it. But the first game of the season, the Saints played the Detroit Lions, and I say that because that'll be our first game of the season this season. But Drew Brees set a career high and franchise tying record with not one, not two, not even three people, but 6 touchdown passes in that game. He was 26 of 34, 358 yards. He was surgical. And of course, he won the Offensive Player of the Week for his performance. That next week, Drew Brees led the Saints to a 48-22 win against the Philadelphia Eagles. He had 311 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. And so on. We'll go on forever. But the thing that got me, and I don't want to spend too much time breaking out every single game in his career, but that year was just amazing. It was just amazing. But the one that stands out gotta be the Monday Night Football game against the New England Patriots. Now, the New England Patriots were the bar at that point, and I think the Saints were 11-0 going into that game. And I remember messing with my boys, and because none of them are Saints fans, and they just haters by nature. And they were like, "Well, that streak ends tonight. Yeah, this is it tonight. Brady gonna get you. Belichick, that's it. This is it." Made him tap out. I've never seen a game where Tom Brady got benched. Saints made that boy tap. Monday Night Football, they tore a hole into the New England Patriots. I think we won that game like 40-something. No, what was the score of that game? I know Drew Brees threw like 5 touchdowns in that game. No, it was 38-17. 38-17. Monday Night Football, prime time. We put the world on notice. We finally let the world know, oh, we're here, people. And that was the first time a Bill Belichick, and I don't think since, that was Drew Brees was the first player to have a perfect passer rating of 158.3 against a Bill Belichick coached team. I mean, surgical. But anywho's, we fast forward to this epic playoff run that led to the Super Bowl. Drew Brees, do you realize, and we're talking, celebrating Drew Brees going into the Hall of Fame. Drew Brees beat 3 Hall of Famers on that Super Bowl run: Kurt Warner, Brett Favre, and Peyton Manning. He made them all lay it down. He laid them out, all 3 of them. Not only are they future Hall of Famers at that point, they're all in the Hall of Fame right now, but they were Super Bowl champions. They were all Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, and pretty much in their prime. Not so much Kurt Warner. He was past his prime, but everybody was still firing on all cylinders, obviously, because they were in the playoffs. They went up against Drew. Sorry. Drew ate them alive and defeated them all, especially and more importantly, Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl, giving the Saints their one and only, so far, fingers crossed, Super Bowl victory. It was great. It was amazing. Didn't think that was possible. But then when you think about it, with this quarterback, we should have had 8 different Super Bowls, man. There's no reason why we did not get multiple Super Bowls. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we were robbed of one. Well, actually 2. We were robbed of the Nola no call against the Rams. We were robbed with that that no call that against the Vikings, that push off in the end zone by their tight end for the winning touchdown. We got robbed of that. The other Vikings game with the Stephon Diggs catch. All that stuff. It was just heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. I don't think the New Orleans Saints have ever, or no other team has had the amount of heartbreak in a stretch like the New Orleans Saints. I can't think of one. But man, heartbreaks. But is a travesty that we only managed to get one Super Bowl with this Hall of Fame quarterback. But we did stay in contention throughout. We stayed in the playoffs. We almost made it the final year. In his final year, which was the pandemic year, 2020, the Saints made it to the playoffs. They met the Chicago Bears in the wild card round. Drew Brees, he threw for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns in that win, 21-9, and went on to the division round to play their division rivals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the Saints had already swept the Buccaneers in the regular season. And Drew Brees is coming off of an injury. He, it's a miracle he did what he did against Chicago. And in this game, going head-to-head again against Brady, in one of those games, he didn't play in the regular season against Tampa. He had that, I forgot what injury he had. But anyways, he had an injury, and Taysom Hill put foots in him. That was the game they just ran Taysom Hill down their throat. But not in this game. Not in this game. Drew Brees, he had 134 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and he threw 3 intercepts. Even with that, the Saints still had a chance. It was still a close game. That was heartbreaking because you saw that was it for Drew. And I think the worst thing about it was you don't want to see Drew Brees. You didn't want to see Drew Brees go out like that. And granted, up to this point, I'm guilty of this. I said, man, it's time for him to go. I was saying that the previous year. Man, it's time for Drew to go. You could tell Drew Brees was losing. He didn't have that same zip on the ball. He didn't have that same accuracy. And now, granted, the talent around him wasn't the greatest, but Drew Brees is such a great player. He makes mediocre players look great. Marcus Colston wouldn't have worked out anywhere else. Marcus Colston is phenomenal as a New Orleans Saints receiver. I love him and miss him, bro. He was money in New Orleans, but that was with Drew. I don't think he could do that with anybody else. The only player I felt that could stand out without Drew Brees was Michael Thomas. Other than that, I don't think anybody else would stand out as much. I mean, think about it. Robert Meacham went on. I forgot where he went. Didn't he go to San Diego? I think he ended up going to the Chargers and just disappeared, faded into the ether. Who else was there? It was everybody who left. Look, Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham was nothing after he left because he didn't have Drew. So it was a struggle, but my God, man, to see him go out like that, I wasn't wishing for that, and especially losing to Tampa and losing to Tom Brady, it was hurtful. It really, really hurt, and everybody in the Who Dat Nation and around the world really knew that this was it. This was the last game. He was blowing kisses going off the field. You knew that was it. That was him tipping his hat to everybody. And he made it official on, ironically, March the 14th, 2021. Why is that ironic? Because he signed with the team on March the 14th, 2006. And so after 15 years to the day, Drew Brees, he signed his first contract with the Saints, and he announced his retirement after 20 seasons. And the Drew Brees era comes to an end. Here are some of his career highlights, awards, and honors that he collected over his 20 years in the NFL. Of course, he was the Super Bowl champion of Super Bowl 44. He was also the Super Bowl MVP of that game. He was NFC champion that season, 7-time NFL passing yards leader, 4-time NFL passing touchdown leader, 2-time NFL passer rating leader, 6-time NFL completion percentage leader, total quarterback rating leader of 2009, 13-time Pro Bowler, 25-time AFC and NFC Offensive Player of the Week honors, 5-time NFC Offensive Player of the Month honors, 4-time FedEx Air Player of the Year, first team All-Pro in 2006, 4-time second team All-Pro, 2-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year. He also was the Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year in 2010, the Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year in 2010, the Bart Bell Award in 2009, the Art Rooney Award in 2018, the NFLPA Alan Page Community Award in 2012, the the PFWA Good Guy Award in 2010, also the George Hollis Award in 2007, the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award in 2006, the NFL Comeback Player of the Year Award in 2004, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame this coming Saturday. If you notice, he never won league MVP. That is the one thing. I don't know if it bothers him, but it definitely bothers me because he should have won in 2009. In 2009, he had, you can't match those stats. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how he did not win in 2009. He actually should have had it was a couple of seasons where he was the flat out winner in my eyes. And it wasn't because I had on black and gold goggles. He was the best player on the field. But his records that still right now stand, I think. I think they still stand. But at the time when he did it, these were the records. The most passing touchdowns in a season, a single game, I should say, with 7. That's tied with 7 other players, but he's one of them 7. Best passer completion percentage in a single game with 74.4%. That was in 2018. Most 5,000 yard seasons. 5 times he threw for over 5,000 yards. The most consecutive games with a touchdown pass. 54 consecutive games. That's what, 2.5 seasons? 3.5 seasons? I think 3.5 seasons. Something like that. Something crazy like that. That's ridiculous. Most seasons leading the league with passer completions, 6 times he led in completion percentage. Most seasons as a passing yards leader, 7 yards per game in a single season. His average 342.3. That was in that's the year. That's 2013. He actually tied that though. He tied that with Peyton Manning. I think Peyton Manning went on to win MVP that season, but should have been Drew. Anyways, and most pass completions in a single game or season, that was 29.4. That was his completions per game in 2016. And now, when it comes to New Orleans Saints franchise records, I mean, what was the other competition? Bobby Hebert? That's not a high bar to clear, but I'll acknowledge all of his records as a New Orleans Saint. Of course, he's the passing yard leader. He's the passing yard single game, passing touchdowns career, passing completions for his career, passing completions for a single game, pass attempts in a single game. It goes on and on. It's getting redundant, but you get my drift. The man was phenomenal. His final total of his career, passing wise, Drew Brees was 7,142 completions off of 10,551 attempts. That is a 67.7 completion percentage. Total yardage, 80,358 total yards in his career. He threw 571 touchdowns in his career, 243 interceptions, but we'll look past that. He had a quarterback rating overall for his entire career, that's in San Diego and in New Orleans, of 98.7. I know here in the Who Dat Nation, it's without a doubt that Drew Brees is the greatest quarterback to ever don the black and gold. That's a no-brainer. Anybody can. Ray Charles can see that. Stevie Wonder can see that. But in my humble opinion, Drew Brees is one of the greatest quarterbacks to wear any uniform. He is one of the greats. I'm not saying he's the great, but he is definitely one of the greatest, and rightfully so, deservingly so, entering the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Drew Brees. Congratulations to the Who Dat Nation. I believe this is our 5th New Orleans Saint to enter the Hall of Fame. Who we got? Willie Rowe, Ricky Jackson, Sam Mills. Did Sam Mills get in? I think he did. And it was somebody else. I could be off, but I could be off by one. But now we got Drew Brees. We know that for certain. I want to know, what is your greatest Drew Brees memory? I have so many. I think back, like I told y'all before, that preseason game before the Super Bowl, on that Super Bowl season, when Drew Brees gave the wave to the opposing team, and just had that swag. That moment was awesome. The moment against the Atlanta Falcons when he spent off of two Falcon players and dove in for the touchdown, that was epic. The Miami Dolphin game in I think it was the Super Bowl year when we were getting up behind. Yeah, because Ricky Jackson was on that team. And we were getting our behinds whipped. And at halftime, Sean Payton was going to kick the field goal, and Drew Brees was like, no. No, we're going for it. And we're going to score. And Sean Payton said, you better. And he went out there and dove over the top and scored. And in the second half, the game changed, and we ended up winning that game. What's the other moment? It's so many. But, man, I miss him. And I think that's part of the problem in the Who Dat Nation. No matter who we bring in at quarterback, we're going to compare them to Drew Brees, and that is not fair. That is not fair to that young man. Whatever young man it may be. Tyler Shuck, Jake Hainer, Spencer Rattler, the Pillsbury Doughboy. It doesn't matter. You can't compare them to Drew Brees. Nobody can. Drew Brees couldn't live up to Drew Brees. He is, because once he started to fade in the latter part of his career, the last 2 seasons, we were like, we were ready to get, like, this ain't Drew. Something ain't right, you know? So it's hard to live up to that standard of greatness, man. That is not right. So we need to just accept people who they are, accept Tyler Shuck for what he gives me, you know, and hopefully it's something good. I just need you to be solid. I don't need you to be Drew Brees. I just need you to be solid. But when Drew Brees was on the field, I never felt we were going to lose a game, even though he lost quite a few. He lost a few, but I always knew we were in it. At no point did I felt like we were going to lose, you know? It wasn't until 4 zeros popped up on the scoreboard that I know that we were going to lose. If we were going to lose that game, per se. But while the game is running, I knew we had a chance because number 9 was on the field. And those were some marvelous times, man. I mean, that 15-year or 14-year run was, I mean, as a fan, the greatest run in Saints history. Even those 7 and 9 seasons, we still had fun. Drew Brees was still out there giving it his all, no matter what. And love him, miss him, and congratulations. Rightfully deserved. Like I said, what's your favorite Drew Brees moment? Do you miss Drew Brees? Do you feel he's one of the greatest, or do you think he's the greatest of all time? I would like to know your thoughts. Subscribe to the KBRadioNetwork.com website, where you can be notified of episodes dropping, and can listen to previous episodes as well. Don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Who Dat Say Podcast here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me as we went over the career of the great Drew Brees. Congratulations once again to the GOAT. Want you all to know we will be back when the football season starts. We're going to be back. We're even going to go over the preseason, people. The first preseason game is August the 15th against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We will recap that game after it goes final. So for all of you Who Dats out there in the Who Dat Nation, come back because football is back. And I'm so happy it is because now I can scream at the top of my lungs and people are not going to look at me crazy when I say, Who Dat?